Chapter 5. If you are called to testify about something you have seen or that you know about, it is sinful to refuse to testify, and you will be punished for your sin. Or suppose you unknowingly touch something that is ceremonial unclean, such as the carcass of an unclean animal. When you realize what you have done, you must admit your defilement and your guilt. Sorry. This is true whenever it is a wild animal, a domestic animal, or an animal that scurries along the ground. Or suppose you unknowingly touch something that makes a person unclean. When you realize what you have done, you must admit your guilt. Or suppose you make a foolish vow of any kind, whether its purpose is for good or for bad. When you realize its foolishness, you must admit your guilt. When you become aware of your guilt in any of these ways, you must confess your sin. Then you must bring the Lord. You must bring to the Lord as the penalty for your sin. Then you must bring to the Lord as a penalty for your sin a female from the flock, either a sheep or a goat. This is a sin offering with which the priest will purify you from your sin, making you right with the Lord. But if you cannot afford to bring a sheep, you may bring the Lord two turtle doves or 2 young pigeons as the penalty for your sin. One of the birds will be for a sin offering, and the other will be for a burnt offering. You must bring them to the priest, who will present the first bird as the sin offering. He will wring its neck, but without severing its head from the body. Then he will sprinkle some of the blood of the sin offering against the sides of the altar, and the rest of the blood will be drained out at the base of the altar. This is another offering for sin. The priest will then prepare the second bird as a burnt offering, following all the procedures that have been prescribed. Through this process, the priest will purify you from your sin, make you right with the Lord, and you will be forgiven. If you cannot afford to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, you may bring 2 quarts of choice flour for your sin offerings. Since it is an offering for sin, you must not moisten it with olive oil or put any frankincense on it. Take the flour to the priest, who will scoop out a handful as a representative portion. He will burn it on the altar on top of the special gifts presented to the Lord. It is an offering for sin. Through this process, the priest will purify those who are guilty of any of these sins, making them right with the Lord, and they will be forgiven. The rest of the flour will belong to the priest, just as the grain offering. Then the Lord said to Moses, "If anyone of you commits a sin by unintentionally defying the Lord's sacred property, you must bring a guilt offering to the Lord. The offering must be your own ram with no defects, or you may buy one of equal value with silver, as measured by the weight of a sanctuary shekel. You must make You must make restitution for the sacred property you have harmed by paying for the loss, plus an additional 20%. When you give the payment to the priest, who will purify you with the ram sacrificed as a guilt offering, making you right with the Lord, and you will be forgiven. Suppose you sin by violating one of the Lord's commandments or commands. Even if you are unaware of what you have done, you are guilty and will be punished for your sin. For a guilt offering, you must bring the priest your own ram with no defects, or you may buy one of equal value. Through this process, the priest will purify you from your unintentional sin, making you right with the Lord, and you will be forgiven. This is a guilt offering, for you have been guilty of an offense against the Lord. Chapter 6. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Suppose one of you sins against your associate, and is unfaithful to the Lord. Suppose you cheat in a deal involving a security deposit, or your seal, or commit fraud, or you find lost property and lie about it, or you lie while swearing to tell the truth, or you commit any other such sin. If you have sinned in any of these ways, you are guilty. You must give back whatever you stole, or the money you took by extortion, or the security deposit, or the lost property you found, or anything obtained by swearing falsely. You must make restitution by paying the full price plus an additional 20% to the person you have harmed. On the same day you must present a guilt offering. As a guilt offering to the Lord, you must bring the priest your own ram with no defects, or you may buy one of equal value. Through this process, the priest will purify you before the Lord, making you right with him, and you have been forgiven for any of these sins you have committed. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Give Aaron and his sons the following instructions regarding the burnt offerings. The burnt offerings must be left on top of the altar until the next morning, and the fire on the altar must keep burning all night. In the morning, after the priest on duty has put on his official linen clothing and linen undergarments, he must clean out the ashes of the burnt offering and put them beside the altar. Then he must take off these garments, change back into his regular clothes, and carry the ashes outside the camp to a place that is ceremonially clean. Meanwhile, the fire on the altar must keep burning. It must never go out. Each morning the priest will add fresh firewood to the fire and arrange the burnt offerings on it. He will then burn the fat of the peace offerings on it. Remember, the fire must be kept burning on the altar at all times. It must never go out. These are the instructions regarding the grain offerings. Aaron's sons must present this offering to the Lord in front of the altar. The priest on duty will take from the grain offering a handful of choice flour moistened with olive oil, together with all the frankincense. He will burn this representative portion on the altar as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Aaron and his sons may eat the rest of the flour, but it must be baked without yeast and eaten in a sacred place within the courtyard of the tabernacle. Remember, it must be prepared with yeast. It must never be prepared with yeast. I have given it to the priest as their share of special gifts presented to me. Like the sin offering, the guilt offering, it is most holy. One of Aaron's male descendants may eat from the special gifts presented to the Lord. This is their permanent right from generation to generation. Anyone or anything that touches these offerings will become holy." Then the Lord said to Moses, "On the day Aaron and his sons are anointed, they must present the Lord a grain offering of 2 quarts of choice flour, half to be offered in the morning and half to be offered in the evening. It must be carefully mixed with olive oil and cooked on a griddle. Then slice this grain offering and present it as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Pleasing aroma to the Lord. In each generation, the high priest who succeeds Aaron must prepare this same offering. It belongs to the Lord and must be burned up completely. This is a permanent law. All such grain offerings of a priest must be burned up entirely. None of it may be eaten." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Give Aaron and his sons the following instructions regarding the sin offerings. The animal given as an offering for sin is a most holy offering, and it must be slaughtered in the Lord's presence at the place where the burnt offerings are slaughtered. The priest who offers the sacrifice as a sin offering must eat his portion in a sacred place within the courtyard of the tabernacle. Anyone or anything that touches this sacrificial meat will become holy. If any of the sacrificial blood splatters on a person's clothing, the soiled garment must be washed in a sacred place. If a clay pot is used to boil the sacrificial meat, it must then be broken. If a bronze pot is used, it must be scorched and thoroughly rinsed with water. Any male of a priest's family may eat this offering. It is most holy, but the offering for sin may not be eaten if its blood was brought into the tabernacle as an offering for purification in the holy place. It must be completely burned with fire. Okay, guys, that's it for today. So a lot of this was again going over the sins. Today was more the sin offerings, and then the guilt offerings, and then the sins. So, sin offering and guilt offering. Both of these offerings, you had to have a lamb. I saw a lot of these sin offerings are like if you unknowingly did something wrong. Like it says, chapter 5, verse 2, or suppose you unknowingly touch something that is ceremonially unclean. And then in verse 3, suppose you unknowingly touch something that makes a person unclean. So all these basically are something that if you unknowingly did a sin that is wrong with the Lord. And so I'm thinking, if I don't know how often these offerings were done, but I'm thinking pretty sure like maybe each person would have a offering, whether it be sin, guilt, or anything. I think they probably did it maybe once or twice every month, I'm thinking, but I don't know how good, with quotation marks around it, or the people were as far as knowing what a sin was and what it wasn't. I don't know if it was as corrupt as it is nowadays. Not saying that I'm perfect, but I don't know. It's just a corrupt world that we live in the 21st century. But anyways, so they both they had to it had to be, like I said, everything had a reason, and in both ceremonies the sheep or the ram that it had to be a male. And I'm thinking they treat the males better because also in the end of chapter 6, it said any male from a priest family may eat from the offering, and it is most holy. So I'm thinking they treat the males better, and the males are kind of seen as the better, I don't know, they're just better maybe. I don't know if that's how it was, and that's why for the bigger offerings, I don't want to say necessarily bigger, but I guess bigger offerings, they had male goats. So I think that was a thing, like because of males being more powerful or something like that. That's why they would put the male, and it had to be sorry, I have to find it again because I forgot the exact word. It had to be a male sheep, and it had to be, gotta find it. So, the Lord is a penalty. So for number 5, it said it was a female from the flock, or sheep or goat, and it had to be, I want to say pure, but I don't know the exact term that they said. Female flock, sheep or goat, the sin offering which the priest will purify you, make your sins right. I'm trying to find it. It said something like more like the whatever you're bringing, it had to be with no defects. That's what it was. It couldn't have defects in it. So again, it had to be male or female. It had to be a certain thing. So like a goat. And then, kind of going back on, for the offerings that we read yesterday, if it was like an elder or somebody high up in the I guess, system, like the higher class, I guess you could say, or a priest, they had to give a bull or something like that. So something bigger, and it's again for that bigger sin. And it was just, I guess, more holy if it was a bigger animal because it was worth more, and that's showing God that, yeah, they're sad that they sinned, basically. So that's how you repay it. So what I also was seeing was a lot of these, it talked about once you give it, the priests have to kind of purify you. They have to purify you and make you right with the Lord. And that's with basically all the offerings. You're doing the offerings, whether for sin or something, to be right with the Lord, and that's the main purpose of these offerings. So that was pretty much it. That was pretty quick. 15 minutes. I didn't want to get to chapter 7 because that would have made us go to like 25 minutes just because it's a longer chapter. But hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think about this reading, and if you liked that I had a picture of the tabernacle up today. So that's pretty much it, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. Bye.